Hey guys, what's going on? My name's XCaliber, and I am here for the developer Q&A with the Eleon Game Studios development team. We have Taelyn. How you doing, Taelyn?
Hello.
And we have Texas. How you doing?
Guys,
I was muted. I did that on purpose, guys. It's cool. It's part of the shtick, you know. We gotta. So yeah, today we are going to be going over the changes, some of the changes in the Alpha 10.6 experimental patch that's soon going to be coming out. We're going to do some demonstrations, and then we're also going to be answering a lot of questions that you guys had that you asked during the week in the Discord. So first of all, Taelyn, what can you tell me overall about some of the big things that are coming in this latest patch?
The biggest change is gonna be the new ship controller is gonna be activated, and that will come with a whole new system how vessels are flying, and that will also bring a cool looking HUD. We shared some photos already around. The CPU system is gonna be activated, and we bring the SV-HV docking back into the game. And that are the
Get on the
three
ground, sir.
large changes. Then there is another large change, and that is especially for multiplayer, and that involves that we probably found a good way to finally eliminate lag shot, and we did a lot of optimization again.
Nice, that is awesome. So I am currently in the patch here for 10.6 to demonstrate some of what you're talking about here. So I think the first thing we'll do is we'll look at the flight controller. Get on the ground, sir.
Yeah, that's fine for me. Basically the flight controller is a whole rework of the current system. Currently with the flight controller, all you can do is just give speed and you fly maximum speed, and that's it. The new ship controller will have a throttle, so you don't have to keep flying maximum speed. You can set it to a certain speed what you have to fly. On planets, the speed will stay the same as what it is at the moment. In space, however, we increased the speed significantly.
Get on the ground,
Also
sir.
for the SV, but also for the CV. You get a new HUD. What is pretty awesome. It's made by Texas. He spent a lot of work on it. It will have an altitude meter. It will have the boost meter, and that is basically your afterburners. It will give you
Get on the
a
ground,
small
sir.
boost to reach a certain speed quickly. You will have the energy with the power, what you're using full, and everything is being listed at the bottom. O2 is listed. It will also list how much minutes you still have fuel left.
Gotta do a
Next
barrel
to
roll.
that, the distance meters, you have the way you're flying to when you're turning. So if you go sideways with your ship, it will also turn as well completely. So yeah, it's basically like you're flying a real simulator. That are the big changes connecting to the flight controller. You have as you have now, you have the cruise speed. That is still in game, but it is reworked, and it is now more like a real cruise speed. As you know, in your car, when you press your gas pedal, you put cruise on, your car will drive automatically, and if you give a little bit more gas, it will adapt itself to the new speed.
Get on the
The
ground,
same is
sir.
here, and if you look on the right side, you have a little, when you have the speed meter, you have that little mark completely at the bottom of the left side, and that is basically how you set your cruise speed.
So how do you boost? Is this boost?
How do you put? Um, Let me look it quickly up. It was somewhere changed again. Shift plus W, A, S, or D.
Oh, okay. So basically, like your run button when you're actually flying, and it just gives you a.
Yeah, and then plus Shift.
Yeah.
That is your booster, and that will basically give you just a boost in your speed. And the booster at the bottom, that will go down when you use it, and when it's completely at 0, you're of course out of boost, and then you have to let it go, and it will charge back. It can be like a little nice saver in PvP, for instance. See the question? Shift was cruise, but we changed them. The cruise is control, and the booster is shift. We switched them around because it made more sense in the new cruise control and how the booster work and what you prefer and presses easily. If you go in an H3,
I am noticing real quick. I'm not able to lift off. Is there some other procedure I need to be doing, or?
Not able to lift off. No, you should just be able to fly. Do you have volume weight on if you ship too heavy?
Well, I'm in creative. Is that establishing creative now?
No, it should be off. Basically, creative off. It might be bugged. Something I have to investigate and let the developer know.
Okay, no problem. All right, so let's do a
You look like you're at 98.9% CPU penalty level, though. I think the CPU system's coming on automatically
for the
when
creative.
you are in the SCSA mode.
Oh, okay.
Might be the point, yeah, that it is the CPU that is preventing you from flying your points at all. Yeah, your CPU level is basically 100%, so you're completely crippled, to say it like that.
Okay. Well, let's go into the HB real quick, and then we'll discuss CPU a little bit.
If you want to turn it off, you have to type SCCA fault. Turn it off.
Yeah, Texas. Do you have the capability of increasing your mic out?
Yeah, you're in an HV now. If you check at the right bottom, you also have two nice icons that will light up when you have drills on your H3. And the other icon is when you are in the pilot mode, what you still have, of course, on the H3 and also on the S3. So there are also indicators for those, that you have them and that they are on and that you're using them. So you are aware completely on basically what you're using completely in game if you have your systems on.
Okay. So turning the SCCA is gonna disable the CPU penalty, or no?
If you turn off the SCCA, you turn also off the CPU points, but that is only at the moment in the closed alpha build, in the weekend or Monday morning, because that's the XP version is planned on Monday. Then we will always force it on, so players have no choice to put it on or off. It's always on.
Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss that with the CPU. If I go over to, let's say this is an unlock level 10 hover vessel. We click on it here. Right off the bat, you're looking at a. This does have a CPU penalty of 100%.
CPU. Let's say it this way. CPU will be mandatory. That will mean no server owner or no player will have a choice to put it off. It will be always on. The point of CPU for us is performance. We do know that the workshop will be crippled. It is also a way for us to force players and builders to change their existing stuff on the workshop, because some of it does need updating. You can go over the limit. There is a CPU limit, and that is for the HV and the SV at the moment set at 6,000. The CV will have 200,000, and the base will have 300,000. The numbers are not final. That is one thing that I have to say. None of those numbers are set in stone. We just want to try it out. We want to have feedback from when the public is playing with it, and we will adjust where needed. Even on the devices, we will adjust it. The points on the devices that the devices give you can be changed by the player if you use a custom config file, as you can change many of the things. The maximum number is hard-coded, will not be changed by players. We won't give you that access, because otherwise the whole performance aspect will still not make sense. Few things about CPU to keep in mind. We will introduce a tier system. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4. It's basically an expanding of your current max limit. We will give server owners an option so they can decide on their own server what tier limit they allow for players. So if you are on the server and you say, I only want the base CPU points, so at the moment that's 6,000 for an HV, you will only allow tier 1 on your server. If you want tier 2, 3, and 4 as well, you put it in your config and you can expand. Players can then expand the CPU system.
Yeah, I think the important thing to note, guys, is they're actively trying to test this system so that we can start getting builds that make more sense within the game and within the game's performance parameters. So it's an attempt to put the standard gameplay on a certain level to where there's no issues with a lot of lag, in multiplayer servers and even single player experience. So note that they are actively testing this, and this being an experimental, and then eventually if it hits stable, everybody is basically an alpha tester that's playing this game currently. So we're trying to give them feedback so that they can edit those numbers and make it make sense in the same way that the weights and volumes was last year. They got a lot of feedback and they adjusted it, and now I mean it's perfectly fine. I love it. I can't live without it. So just it's going to be a lot of sticker shock, but once we understand exactly what this means, I think it's going to be a lot better for builders, designers, and just your regular gameplay, because it kind of opens up a lot more creativity to work within a certain set of parameters instead of basically doing whatever you want, but then there's a lot of performance issues attached to that. So this gives everybody a nice roadmap on how to build something within the game that's going to work within spec and within the limits of the game itself.
The thing is, everybody knew that we were going to balance performance at some point in the game, and this is the balance, the performance aspect that the game needs. For a couple of years, everybody was allowed to build freely as big as they want. You go with ship size classes of 200. And on a multiplayer server, especially multiplayer, it just doesn't work. That one player has a computer that is $5,000. That doesn't mean the other player has a computer of $5,000. That it works on your computer, your enemy, it doesn't work. Maybe. Depends how much money is spent on it. So this is the way. But even the off option that it can't be put off is in question. If it turns out in the public that it is a hated thing that you can't turn it off, we might consider to let you turn it off in the first place. Like I said, it is work in progress. It is finalized for us now in the state that we can say to the public, you can try it actually out. And the good thing about CPU is you have a penalty system. If you just go a little bit over the CPU limit, your vessel will still operate. The penalty level is in the CP, in the control panel on the first page. It is built in this way. If you go 50% over the limit, your vessel will be for 50% crippled. That means that, for instance, a constructor will then have a crafting time of 50% longer. Turret rotation will be 50% slower. Thruster output will be 50% lesser. So if you don't go that far over the limit, it doesn't really matter. In a way, it's also, if you have to remove thrusters or RCS from your capital ship, for instance, your capital ship will fly slower, it will rotate more robust, but that makes sense because a large capital ship should not fly like a fighter plane. It should never happen. It was never supposed to happen. That's also a thing what CPU will keep in mind. And as we saw with most of the vessels at the moment, the largest issue that vessels are having is too much RCS and too much thrusters. There is a game prefab in game. It's from Jeff Randall. He has built it for us. We tested it out. It has like 129k CPU points. What will we do? It has like 200 RCS. We removed most of the thrusters. We removed most of the RCS. It still flies in the same way. And we turned down the CPU points to just 50k. So people just need to change their builds in a way. No unnecessary stuff on it anymore. Like a big capital ship. Why place 4 constructors on it? The only profit you have from it, you can craft multiple things at the same time. But does it really have a point? No. And with CPU in mind, that will all start to make sense. But still, the numbers are not final. If the numbers turn out in public that they can't work, that it is not possible with the ships, that it will kill creativity, we are willing to adapt the numbers to a different standard. That's why it is experimental. That's why it needs testing. We alone can't test CPU completely out, because what works for us doesn't have to work for the player. Yeah, single player, there won't be a limit. What should I say on that? Kinda makes sense in single player. There shouldn't be a limit in single player because it's player's own computer. You play alone. I don't know that will be taken in count at the moment. I think it will just be the same. It will automatically turn on, but if we will come back to the fact that players don't like that you can't turn it off, as I said, we might put the button back and then you can turn it off anyway. Then server owners and also single player players can decide completely themselves what to do, as they also can do with volume and weight at the moment.
Trying to demonstrate the docking here. So.
The docking is completely fixed, actually, as we had problems, as everybody knew, when 1.5 came out. We had some issues, especially with H3s operating in space. that is completely fixed. You can still operate your HV in space, but it won't fly anymore. You can move it, so in a CV you can exactly move it. So you can move it to the SV, you can dock it, but you have to be in the docking vessel. So if you want to dock an HV to an SV, you have to be in the HV. You can't dock the SV to the HV.
Uh-oh.
Something new that is taking place is, and that will be a cool thing actually. All ship mass, all docked vessel mass is being taken in count in the total weight of the vessel.
Ah, okay.
So that's also something you need to keep in mind.
So it's good because this way, you know, with an SV, like a dropship or something, it has to be able to handle that combined weight of what it's towing as well as its own mass.
Yes. It's also something that is highly asked by the public, that docked vessels was gonna be taken into account. And we've done it for 10.6.
So it's an interesting balance between the CPU and then what we're trying to achieve here. Well, now the numbers are going to change again, so please just note that the demonstration here is more the demonstration of the structure of the CPU, not necessarily the hard-coded numbers and what the capabilities are. This is an unlock level 7 SV. It's a starter SV. It's very low in its capabilities and performance, and we're barely at about, I've taken off a bunch of thrusters and I've taken off all but one RCS, and we're still 3% over the CPU limit. So note that that's going to change. Now, you do have to take that into account with the CPU, but also being able to carry, you know, the added weight. So this is going to mean that, you know, you build a dropship, it might not have all the bells and whistles, but it's made specifically to be able to handle this specific task.
What CPU also will do is it forces you to make specialized ships, like you make a cargo SV, and a cargo SV shouldn't be well defended. Most cargo planes are not well defended. They usually have a shield and one weapon, and that's it. So it will also force you to work in a certain way to make specialized ships, like you build an SV specially to all an HV around, for instance. That is our ultimate goal: specialized vessels.
Does that also mean that the CPU numbers on cargo boxes are going to drop so that you can actually have a cargo SV or something like that?
Yes, but we will implant CPU on any cargo box for the simple reason. Otherwise, players will simply put the fridge down if we won't put it on the fridge, and they will put all the cargo in the fridge, because it is technically possible to throw in the fridge any item that you feel like. The numbers, the CPU numbers, are there as they are at the moment in the public version of the game. They're changed a lot.
So, for instance, you would put like a high price for a CPU on a fridge and a lower on an actual cargo extension, so that it would actually be used for cargo instead of, or I mean, it would be used for food instead of a cargo box or whatever.
Yeah. For instance, then the controllers, they will have a bit more higher CPU than a normal cargo box, because the controllers are basically, again, there are special boxes where you can increase your volume limit. They even will have more CPU usage.
Yeah, so with the docking here, you guys noticed that was pointed out in the chat there, is that yes, you can move HVs in space now, but at a drastically slower rate. So they move very slow, but they do move so that I can then take this HV, I could take it up to space, I could then de-dock it from the SV and dock it to the CV, and vice versa. So this basically allows you to leave your CV up in space and simply bring down an SV-HV combo to do what you need to do in space. So,
which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's plenty of SVs that can be built with, you know, like a hatch on the bottom that you could then access the HV from you know, in the air if you had like a passenger or something that wanted to jump into the HV and dismount. So a lot of possibilities for creativity here with specialized systems.
Yeah, and to point out too, there's going to be some added UI interface tools to help along with the design portion of a lot of the building with regards to the CPU and drag coefficients and all that kind of thing as well. So you won't just be
So we can get
flip
rid of
back and forth.
our flip sheets that we have for what thrust does what.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so we've got the docking, we've got the CPU limits. What else are the some of the big overall changes that we're going to be seeing in this new patch?
One of the changes that we're testing at the moment on our own servers at the moment is a new way of what basically will increase FPS. What is a PvP? Quite important. There's a new way of the garbage collector, as Unity is calling it. We added a new Unity version, and they added a very cool, good working garbage collector, and it should avoid shuttering in the game as many players are experiencing.
Is that the one I heard about? That's the streaming garbage. So it's not all at once. It does like a couple little things here and there, so that you don't get that shuttering thing.
Yes, we tested it on our own service with our own clients, and it works pretty cool. And we will activate it as well for the public build. And the same is the so-called lag shot. We finally found a good way of killing it. And we tested it, and it seemed to work fine for us, but it has to work out how it can't really be tested yet in the public, so the public just has to run it on their own service. And
So it's fixed, fingers
there-
crossed.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, we don't have the large numbers, so it's a bit hard to test. Now, next to that, there are some new blocks coming in the game. There are new heavy windows coming in the game, and
Ooh,
some,
nice.
like the hangar doors, they have a new texture.
Yeah, these doors are really cool. The way they turn like that to lock, that is freaking awesome.
Hummel War has spent quite some time with the artists to create those doors.
That is so cool.
And they
Big
look
shout out to
very awesome.
Annie. Appreciate that, sir.
And you get some missing building blocks because we turned out there are some shapes missing, so we have added the shapes. And
Oh.
the heavy windows, we added a lot of new heavy windows. Not all of them are in the game yet, because
I'm
some
a
of
fan
them
of you
still have
guys'
to look up.
windows. They look beautiful.
They look pretty nice, indeed. And we added some missing shapes, so you can have some more customized vessels with it if you like. Based. That are basically the big things where 10.6 is about. Basically, whole 10.6 is about performance with some side goodies.
Wow.
And one of the big things about 10 points is going to be in preparation for another thing coming up. But we're going to be also allowing the ability to, or not so much the ability, but the functionality of multiple playfields running on a single playfield server, which is going to be.
Yes, that is something about Alpha 11. Something I will share with the public now. Multi-solar system is coming.
Yay. New solar system. That is freaking awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
power's a
pretty
big deal
exciting.
to me, man, and it'll be good to see something that actually is something workable in the game that brings balance to power management. I'm happy.
We did a lot of changes in the current game code for it because all the developers had to go over their game code to check it if every single line of code was still working, because the whole playfield server is reworked, as Texas just explained. And that basically opens up the multi-solar system for Alpha 11. So that's also something in 10.6 that we have to test, see how the servers are responding on it. Servers are running stable, not having all kinds of COQ errors and that kind of stuff. Most of them we found already and got solved, but you never know what slips past them.
All right, so we have earlier this week we posted what we were doing here, and we asked the community overall to give us some questions that they wanted to ask, as far as and a lot of different things here. So we put them into categories. So what I'll do is I'll dip into each category one at a time, and we'll ask some different questions. I looked over all of the questions and what everybody put in that chat, and by far the most asked question was if you guys were going to be removing the motorbike.
Removing the motorbike, it won't be removed. We will rework the motorbike, because one thing that is set in stone, wheels and tracks won't happen in this game because it doesn't fit. It gives large issues, and then the motorbike with its wheels doesn't fit either. So we have been experimenting a while ago already with it, and we made it a hover bike, and we might do that with it.
I don't think anybody asked that. I'm joking. That was my question. But to build on that, I will say that I recently have played the beginning game, the first 10 levels of the game, very recent, like within a week or two. And there are definitely some early game balance issues that need to be ironed out, as far as the first vessel that you build. I found this since Alpha 9, when I think Alpha 8, Alpha 9 is when you guys started the Tier 1 hover engines. Which honestly, by the time you get any kind of resources, you're just about at level 5 anyway. So I'm finding that that level 1 hover isn't very obtainable or useful. Whereas it could be, I think, if maybe it was something that you can craft either in your suit constructor or very minimally. And I feel like that would prevent people from even needing the motorbike if you were able to build something with just the hover engines, a generator, a fuel tank. Maybe make like a smaller generator fuel tank combination. Something to where you're at least promoting building from the very beginning when you get somebody new in the game, so that they're, because later on they might be looking for a higher grade motorbike and then realizing that, that motorbike didn't really fit in the game because everything else is about building it yourself.
I get what you mean. The only problem with the suit constructor is it has limited to the recipes it can have, and I think it's full at the moment. So it should then be in the small constructor, or the portable constructor. That are then the options.
Which is fine.
Using the portable constructor would be good too, and using like raw resources instead of bars or something like that for the really, really early stuff, like the Tier 1 HV lifter thruster.
The thing that we are a bit struggling with at the moment is finding a good balance in an early good start and the rest of the game. As many know, the whole leveling system, what is in game at the moment, the whole tech tree that is in game at the moment, the whole factory what in game is at the moment, are still placeholders for something better. But those topics are not tackled down yet by us. And till then, I don't think we would change too much in the current way how things are constructed, because when those things are in game, we can basically make a tech tree where you call it like a science tree, that you have to find your blueprints and then you can actually learn them.
Okay, so the first real question here is a physics side of the question here. How will thruster damage work? Is the goal to create realism or balance internal thrusters for combat?
We want to have a bit of a mix of realism and that it has to be fun. And trusted damage, it has been asked for a really long time, but the biggest issue with most of the stuff at the moment, what comes to vessel damage, is the collider system, and we're not there yet to provide a good way that works yet with the current collider system.
Okay, so it's still something that's being worked on.
Yes, we basically work on the collider system every update, but the whole system is so difficult. By the time we think we are there, it's basically already outdated again. And with the SV HV docking, it also depends on the collider system. We finally reached a point that you actually can have it and that it works. So eventually we will get there.
Okay. With HV to SV docking becoming a feature, what are some of the issues you face implementing this? What about CV to CV docking, for example, to allow you to bring a mining CV along with your main CV mothership?
CV docking we haven't really talked about yet. It is planned, that is one thing, but we haven't really talked about it yet. I think the main thing at the moment is we want to test this out, see how it goes, and then work from there. But the biggest issue we were facing with the SV HV docking was the ability that the HV worked in space. And that was the biggest issue, because what you could do for years in the game was fly an HV in space with 50 meters per second, and the turrets operated. You could just destroy an POI with it if you wanted. And that is something we had to change, and that's what we did now.
Okay, great. Are there any plans to fix the annoying blocks that texture differently on each side? Will you add in new blocks to fix this issue, or do you have another workaround?
At the moment, it has to do with how the shaders are divided on the blocks, and that depends a bit on the artist. I don't think we really have a way yet to change that. But as with anything is possible, and we're certainly keep looking for ways to get it fixed that it does work.
Okay, great. Are there any more plans to improve the first-time player experience? EGS can be a lot to swallow for someone who has just started. How can you ease this process?
Better tutorial, for instance, that is something we're working on, because how more systems are getting in the game at the moment. Hummel War is slowly starting to work in releasing the lore of the game, and that will also benefit new players as well. And that way, in the end, we can provide a good tutorial. We will have something new. There will in whole be new space creative coming in 10.6 with a new space base. It will also have some cool flying ships from the Terrans there standing, and that base is completely built with the new LCD systems that the game has, and with a whole new tutorial. What does what? How does it work? What do you have to do? And that is certainly something players need to look out for.
Okay, nice. So that builds upon what I was gonna ask next, where the plans for the storyline, without spoiling it. But I mean, will it have cutscenes, scripted events, or will it be kind of a forced story mode, or will it just be something that you can do, like PDA missions, or?
A cutscene is not possible in Empyrion at the moment. Let's say it this way: it will affect too much the loading times and the FPS of the game, the performance. This just the way how it is, and there's not much we can do about it at the moment. Same way why you don't have a moving warp screen, because it will just lag too much the game, and by the time it will work again, you're 10 minutes later. So that's not an option. But at the moment we have the PDA, and you have something new with the PDA, and that is already since Alpha 10 in the game, I think. That is something Texas knows more about, and it's PDA CS, C#. It's basically you can with that way. It only works in single player at the moment. It doesn't really work in multiplayer yet.
sir.
Script in CS, C#, a whole own story how you want it. The problem at the moment is that the developers of the game don't really have the time for it, and Hamel doesn't have the experience to write it that way, so he has to do it with PDA.YAML. But he is getting there slowly in releasing a very cool lore story.
That's awesome. Will you allow LCDs to display dynamic information like blueprint stats, navigation, current fuel efficiency, stuff like that?
That's planned to get that added to the LCD screens, but there is no ETA for that.
Okay. Will you allow walking through small doors and gaps if the ship is at an angle instead of zeroed out at the horizontal plane?
That is actually in game bug, and that is something that is on our list of things that needs to be fixed.
Okay. When will new sounds for weapons, explosions, mobs, etc. be added?
New sounds. That is something where our sound guy is working on, and those things are not too high priority at the moment for us. But we definitely look for it in the future to get the things improved to higher standards, what fit us. Because what the most things in the game is there at the moment bot assets, and we're slowly replacing all the bot assets to our own stuff.
Okay. Will there be more work done to multiplayer performance, especially in battles?
As I told earlier, 10.6 should improve it already a lot, as what is happening with whole Alpha 10 already, that it got improved, but 10.6 should even improve it way more than it used to be. But of course, we keep looking in the future as well to balance it and get it completely optimized that every player can work with normal frame rates the game.
Okay, great. What do you guys see as the most important aspect of the game to players, be it building, exploration, combat, story, PvP?
We actually ourselves are more in the lore that it will be appealing for the players.
Okay, so you're looking at bringing some dynamic, I guess. I mean, are you talking more end game wise, or are you talking just like gradual process wise? And I mean, because it is an open world game, but then you're trying to give some sort of direction to the progress of your gameplay. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the thing is that everything we do will be in game, of course, and we want the players to do everything. But if you like building, you should be able to build nicely. If you like exploring, you should be able to do that. So we're trying to find a balance in the whole aspect for the player, that everything is being worked on, that everything gets its share of attention, even the PvP part gets his attention at 10.6 with the CPU, what should bring balance, optimization, what should make the PvP better for the players. So, but our most loved thing is just the lore, and as already happened in 10.5, released a new Titan. Hummelawar is working on the new Hyperion story, as is already announced on the forum. And slowly we're updating all those prefabs to how we want the lore, and we adapt the story around it for players with quests and PDA missions to do.
Awesome. Will walking on a moving ship ever be possible?
Certainly, walking on a moving ship will be possible, and we are getting close with it, but it's the same as with everything else. We don't have an ETA for it. It can be tomorrow. It can be the next alpha. It can be in 2 years. That's just not sure. It depends a bit what kind of issues we come along during the road.
Okay, but it is something in your guys' sites that you are looking
Yes,
at.
definitely.
Okay.
We do want to add it for players because it is a most wanted thing, and it will be a cool thing to have.
Definitely. Will collision physics be added?
Yes, definitely. That became a topic lately with a whole new flight controller to add physics in the game, that you get that kind of stuff. But it's the same thing. The collider system kind of depends on it. We tried it a few alphas ago, then it turned out to be a bad thing, and we disabled it again. But it is definitely on our radar. It's definitely something we love to get added as soon as possible with the new flight system.
Okay. Will docked vehicles and their cargo count towards the total weight of the CV?
Yeah, as I told earlier, in 10.6 we added the docked vessels to the volume and weight system. They will definitely imply in your mass, total mass.
Will you add aerodynamics, and will they only work in atmosphere or in space as well?
That is not completely sure yet how we will tackle it down. It is on the list, but that's also something we have to take it on and see how it works with the new flight system now. But the flight system as it gets released in 10.6 is the first step to something better, and we can definitely improve it more.
Okay. Will gravity generators ever make true gravity in space? This could allow the movement of HVs in space. Additionally, as the rotation of gravity fields and tension.
That is planned. When HV docking got added, the gravity in space is also being taken into account, and we have been experimenting in 10.6 also with gravity pull towards planets. So if your ship is close to your planet, that it slowly gets pulled towards the planet.
Okay, why do twigs stop a 4 kiloton tank going 40 milliseconds instantly? Kind of a specific question. But are you ever going to get rid of the twigs that stop anything? I guess that would go along with collision, right?
Yeah, that has to do with the collision system. That has to be updated then.
Currently, a lot of servers experience issues due to system times getting out of sync. Is this something you're aware of, and do you have a solution plan?
There's actually a bug that we introduced in one of the last patches, and there's also a bug that is fixed already. But server owners are supposed to run a command to get the time straight in line again, because that's not something we can do, or they have to wipe the server to get it done. But that time sync issue is fixed.
Okay. Will we be able to crouch and or go prone at some point?
Yes, definitely. But we have to write whole new chart animations, and that takes a lot of time and a lot of work, and that is not something our artists have the time for at this point. But it is planned and it will be done.
Okay, great. Will you add alternate ways to fight your enemies, like stealth, evil, decoy equipment?
The whole weapon topic, so also where that falls under, is a topic that will be taken up for us to be changed completely.
Okay. Will you add new thrusters that use compressed gas to rotate the ship, or propellers?
Um, At the moment, there are no plans for it, but it is on the future list to look at it at least and see if things are possible.
Okay. Will there be any kind of, I guess, single player immersion as far as being able to maybe hire AI to be a crew on your vessels and maybe do remedial in-game tasks like automated constructing and stuff to that effect?
Yes, certainly. We discussed it already that the NPC crew that you can buy at the moment for your vessel to get them active, that they actually offer missions or they help you, like the NPC guards that you have. They can, for instance, maybe help you with a base attack that they actually start to shoot at the enemy.
Okay, great. Are you going to be adding? This is more like a single player question. Are you going to add the ability to move your ship while in a turret, like especially for like drill turrets, multi turrets?
Oh, we have no plans for that to get that done at the moment. But I think it is on the future list to at least discuss it. Would it be something to be cool to have? Depends a bit how it will turn out with the current flight system.
On a side question with that, you guys recently did a huge update to drilling as a whole in the game, and it's been I really like it. I gotta say, I mean, it's made it a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable to play the game, especially in early game. Are you planning on doing the same thing with the multi turrets?
At the moment, there are no plans for that, and we didn't discuss it yet. So that's it's not 100% sure.
Because while I think that it should take some time to salvage something, it should also not take as much. I don't know if there's an easier process to maybe salvage bases or ships, or but maybe just a more efficient process. Now, if that requires some kind of a penalty or cost, resource wise, or pentaxid, something like that. But I just feel like there needs to be a more efficient boost to salvaging, because it can be extremely monotonous in the early game, especially if you're somebody that likes to do a lot of salvaging to get materials in certain scenarios and stuff.
I agree. We have been experimenting with some changes in the whole salvaging code and stuff. We already changed, like for instance, the return rate a couple of times around, and it is still work in progress. To say
Okay. Radars and scanners. Do you plan on building on the efficiency and performance of those?
yes, proper radar in this game and a proper scanner is definitely planned to get added sooner than later.
Any additional blocks like relay points, or the ability to extend your menu as far as cargo transfer, being able to boost that signal, being able to relay that signal to other bases?
We have been discussing it because for the volume and weight system to get it expanded in a different way, but nothing is really set in concrete yet. What?
Okay. What about as far as automation? Not automation, but as far as is there any type of drone plans, as far as like a cargo drone that can carry a shipment from planet to orbit to dock to a CV that you have up there to be able to transfer to another system?
Yes, we have plans to add something like drones or base repair drones, but we run into some issues that we have to iron out first before we can really do something.
Okay. Okay, so as far as the piloting, you've got the flight control and everything, the new flight control. Do you plan to add the ability to change the belt keys, the hotkeys, to be able to perform toggle functions instead of having to go into the P menu physically when you're flying?
Yeah, there are plans to add the devices and all the other stuff to the hotbar, basically. So, like, I think you can compare it with the Space Engineer system.
Okay, cool. So that's something that you guys are planning on implementing.
Yeah, we're planning to implement something similar that you can add your devices on that hotbar, because at the moment it's only the weapons and the rest stays empty. But there are definitely plans.
That's
I have
going
a
to be amazing
question real
immersion wise.
quick about the drones. The drones that come attack your base, are you guys ever planning on having like them be actually built drones, or are you gonna keep them the things the way they are? Because like it seems weird that you just go up and loot them and they're not actually part of like the way that everything else is built in the world. They seem off. You know what I mean?
They're still using bolt assets, so they have to completely rework to something new. And we used to have them let them come from the drone base. That at least made more sense. But since the planets are so large at the moment, it will take way too long before they are at your base. So at the moment, it's the only way to just let them appear somewhere close to your base. But the base attack system is also a topic that we're still talking about, because we're not entirely happy as about how it is at the moment in the game.
Okay. Will we get new types of this is more of a weapons question. Actual like different types of weapons and ammunition for like, let's say instead of one big Gatling gun instead of 6 small ones, are there going to be different classes of weapons?
Different classes. The whole, as I said, the whole weapon topic will certainly be in topic, and then we will decide: will we add more weapons? Will we add more more categories to it? Will we add more ammo types? It's not something that is on our radar at the moment, so it's not something we actively talk about either. But it is definitely planned to take a look and change what you have at the moment.
Okay. Are there plans for actually rebalancing the RCS? Now I know CPU is going to be a big point with the RCS overall. Are there going to be different like tier 2 RCS for small vessels, HV vessels, or you're going to keep the regular RCS?
We keep the regular ones. It's a design reason that we don't want all those high-end RCSs and thrusters on the SVs as well. The same reason why we basically say no to a gravity generator on a small vessel. It's just this design reason we made, and that is not something we want to do. But never say never. If there comes a point in the game where we see it is needed, the game will benefit from it, then we will definitely look at it, of course.
Okay. The thrusters for SVs, are you guys going to revisit that? You recently made some really nice looking thrusters, but as far as efficiency, they don't calculate the same way the HVs and the CVs do. Do you plan on giving us the standard pack of thrusters for the SVs as well?
I don't know actually if that is planned. Hummel does the balancing when it comes to the numbers. He always keeps looking at things that needs to be changed, or that needs to be done better, or that doesn't make sense. So never say never.
Okay, because I mean, if you look at the thrusters themselves for these, anything beyond the medium thruster jet, efficiency and fuel costs, it really doesn't make sense to go any higher other than cosmetically. Whereas with the other thrusters, the HVs and SVs, they actually are in line and are also upgradable via the multi-tool in a lot of circumstances. Whereas the SVs, they're really just kind of fixed to what thrusters you actually have in there.
The reason you can't upgrade them is because of the size. Because our upgrade mechanic, it has to stay in the same block size. It can't go bigger. Otherwise, it will happen that it can clip into another block, and that shouldn't be the case. That's the whole reason, though, the upgrade mechanic is working, and it's.
Mm-hmm. And I like it. I think it's a really good system. It just needs to be.
It's a good system, but it also limits us a bit to, for instance, make different shield tiers.
Right. Well, true. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Cool. That's a question I have. All right. Are you planning on giving us a less efficient CV shield for, especially with the CPU? You're going to see a lot smaller CVs, a lot more specialized CVs. Are you going to give us a shield that's going to be a decent size, smaller size for those CVs, or are we still going to have the 3x3x3?
We're talking about it. to get that mechanic changed, and also the shields what involved, and then the upgrade mechanic. But the upgrade mechanic is tied in the game, and yeah, completely changing it, and we have to completely change everything. But at the moment, it is limiting us from giving you different shield sizes, because upgrading to a larger shield should automatically mean a larger device. And since if you start with a small device and you upgrade it to a large device and there are blocks in the way, they will clip inside your device. And that may not happen, of course. And that is a limitation we're having at the moment.
Right, because I mean, even if you give us like the same looking shield as you have the SVHV, but maybe have it just completely different. Like you can either have this or you can have the higher one, but don't connect them as far as like a upgrade progression, and then maybe drastically less efficient, something to that degree.
We're talking about those things. In CPUs getting active, we're actually talking about those things.
Another thing that I noticed when I was starting a brand new Let's Play was the constructor progression, as far as going from your suit to a portable constructor to an HV constructor to then being forced to do a base constructor, then going back to like an SV constructor. You end up getting 6 constructors in your first 10 levels, and maybe you don't necessarily want to have a base, or maybe you don't want to have an HV. Is there any hopes of maybe streamlining the constructors to where, you know, the basic default stuff kind of works?
The basic default stuff is basically built around our single player game, around our story. And I think Hummel did that. He built it around that, and it works for there. And what we actually expected, that is something that server owners do, or when players make an own scenario, for instance, that they automatically also change the config file to their own wish. And not everybody is doing that, because not everybody dares to touch the files or whatsoever, but do wish it differently. So it's for us also a challenge to find a way that it works for everybody, but you can never make everybody happy. Right. So it's a bit difficult to stay within our own story, but also give the players what they want.
Understood. Is there a the new ramps that you've given us for the CVs and stuff? Are you planning on doing versions of that for the SVs? The boarding ramps?
At the moment, there are no plans for it, but it is on our future list to take a look at it at some point. Yeah, if it can be done, if it makes sense.
Okay. Will there be rotors and pistons added into the game at any point?
That is planned, yes.
Oh. Nice. Is there any chance for vertical cockpit designs?
Vertical cockpit designs. At the moment, I don't know if that is planned.
So take like Jango Fett or Boba Fett's ship. You know, just the possibility of having like a vertical ship with a cockpit that lends to that design.
Technically, it should be possible, because you should be able to rotate them, but game wise,
with the access being, you know, not taking on that, you know what I mean? Like it would still be forward, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I picture it kind of like a work cockpit where you get in from the front and it's like maybe a 3x2 wide or something like that, and you just slap it on the front of the ship, but it's a vertical cockpit, so you're still looking forward.
I know what you mean. Yeah, that's certainly something we can look at.
All right, so another thing, the new hangar doors that you have, are you guys planning on doing different angled hangar doors so that we don't have to use the ramps in order to simulate that? Like a 45-degree hangar door, a 20-degree hangar door?
At the moment, those are not planned yet, but we can put it on our list and certainly look at it if it is viable to get those in the game as well. The thing is that any asset we add takes also an entity number, and those are limited. So we kind of have to watch out what we add.
Okay. Will
I vote
CVs
you get rid of flares.
ever be able to get solar power?
CVs get solar power? No, because it basically makes no sense on a CV. The CV has such a power requirement that solar will never be good enough for. But even in a standby state, it just won't run. Solar was meant as a starting thing and not something where you should sustain on.
Okay. Are you planning on adding multiple symmetry planes with symmetry mode so that you can have multiple planes at once?
The whole building menu is getting its own topic to get updated, to get changed, to get new stuff into it, to get the bugs that are in it fixed at some point.
Will there be special events like natural disasters, boss fights, space anomalies, black holes, wormholes, stuff to that effect?
At the moment, there is no system in game that allows you to have it, but it's certainly on our list to expand it and get those things added.
Okay. As far as the current base attack and base defense stuff that you guys have recently added, what are your plans for building upon that? I mean, I know there's now Taelyn attacks and everything. What beyond? What do you look at in the future for that?
Basically, we want to expand it to Polaris as well, and from there we want to work to get it added in space as well.
Would that fall along the lines of more of an end game feature, if that's even going to be a thing?
It's not really an end game. The end game is basically finding Empyrion. That is basically the end game, but the end game is still pretty much open.
Okay. Are you going to eventually have NPC HVs or SVs that would also attack, or will it just remain drones?
At the moment, the AI, what is flying the CVs, is already problematic. There are bugs with it. Those have to be ironed out first before we really can start looking in SV AI and HV AI.
Okay. Are you ever going to allow full-blown mods to be used within the game?
Now, the modding API is reworked. It is still being reworked, but at the moment, the other features in the game asking a lot of time from us that we don't have the time for the mod API. We will certainly add new stuff to the mod API, but if you will ever be able to add own assets and own taxes and all that kind of stuff, that is not sure yet if that will be done.
Do you plan on upgrading the lighting system, or will you make it so light doesn't go through walls anymore?
At the moment, we have a new lighting system in game. It's not loved by many, so we have it on our list actually to add a switch that you can turn it off. It will be client side, so that the client can decide it themselves to do it. The light through blocks is also something that is on the bug list to be fixed.
Okay. Overall, how much of a priority is multiplayer to Eleon?
The same priority as single player is for us. It is as important as the rest of the system.
Okay, so the overall goal is to make a game that's just as fun to play multiplayer as it is single player.
And certainly on multiplayer, it also comes down to server owner creativity. A server owner can create his own game how he wants. He can do with it what he wants.
Okay. Will weapon values and shield scaling be rebalanced around PvP?
PvP is a difficult topic within the game. Hummel hasn't really changed things yet, but he is reading the forum posts, even about PvP, and he's always looking for stuff to balance out what works better.
Okay, because I can assume that forcing CPU is going to drastically change PvP as a whole. Anyway, I think it's going to be it's probably going to be a few months before the dust settles and we understand how it's even going to work, which I'm excited about. I think everybody will be on a balanced playfield, and I think a lot of new people will probably jump into a multiplayer experience as well. It'll be interesting, and I don't even I would have to sit here and think about it for probably a few weeks before I can even begin to think about what's going to become of it. But I'm excited. I think, as long as you guys are adamant about creating a balanced multiplayer system, then I'm excited about what it could be. Definitely.
That's the first step with the CPU. Find the good numbers that work, and from there we can work on the.
Okay. Is it possible to be able to log out in a seat so you move with the ship to allow friends to use your builds without being stranded? This is a big problem in multiplayer.
Well, it is at the moment a big problem. Yes, it is not easily changed, but it is something that will be changed when we allow you also to walk on ship.
Okay. Kind of an overall question as far as early access alpha. Do you guys feel that the process has worked for you, and have you seen community engagement increase or decrease over that time?
There are times that we see the community increasing, and the community has a lot of potential ideas. Is a lot of topics going around over the forum and Discord and Steam. And we get a lot of questions, we get a lot of feedback, so keep it coming.
Okay. A question that's also pretty near to my heart and a lot of my community is the workshop itself. Yeah, it obviously needs to be completely reworked. It needs to make a lot more sense. It needs to be a lot more streamlined and easier. Now, I know you guys have your certain constraints with Steam overall because it is an actual Steam system. Are there any plans of revamping it, maybe even an alternative method of sharing blueprints? Because it's a lot of free creative content that's being poured into the game that could be a big asset to the development if it was streamlined a bit more.
For the one we noticed, we already added some new groups to the workshop, POIs section, that will be available and explained with 10.6 how you can upload POIs to the workshop. Basically buildings with forbidden blocks, so the alien core, the alien weapons, and then people can share POIs around. And we will definitely look later on to expand it more, but it's not a high priority at the moment to do it. We have more urgent things at the moment to look at.
Okay. How does Eleon balance their priorities between fixing or polishing existing features and creating new features?
Basically every update will decide how it goes, what we do, and where we work on. And before the summer started, we had a team meeting, what was, for instance, going about Alpha 11. So once in a while, we speak each other and we'll discuss what we do and how we do it.
Okay. Most games have a core gameplay loop to keep people playing. What do you see Empyrion's to be?
We have a pretty core group as well that plays Empyrion daily, so we're not that far behind like other games. And for us, it goes steady. We have frequent updates that will keep people interested. We have each time new features that keep people interested. So that way we'll keep keeping the people also appealing to the game, that they like it, and of course the community feedback that they can give for us, and that helps.
How do you guys feel about the current competition with games like Dual Universe or Starbase? Do you guys feel pressured to hurry the release, or what are your overall? Does that affect you in any way as far as development?
We know that those games are around. Of course, we look to other games, but we have seen it with Space Engineers as well. Players come and go anyway to games, so it's not like we're scared for it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I mean, I've been playing this game for years. A lot of people that are watching now have been playing this game for years and years, and I think the strongest point with Eleon is that, whereas maybe we're not always happy with what happens, there's always something happening, and there's always development happening. So I think that's probably the most important thing with these games is that, you might play for a couple weeks and then, leave to something else, but you're always coming back because there's always interesting development and rebalancing as well. So especially with the current stuff with Alpha 9 and Alpha 10 and what we're seeing with the 10.6 coming up. I mean, this isn't even Alpha 11. This is 10.6, and we're getting some pretty big meat on our plate for this patch. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I think that's what people continue to play this over and over, because of that, because it's always different.
There is always something in the game that gets added during, and is it now it is a 10.5 or a 10.6 or an Alpha 10. There's always something that gets added that appeals the player to try it out and look at it. So, as I said, players come and go to games, and that will always be the case.
Definitely. Another quick one. With the creative build mode, are there any plans on? I know you said you're going to have a new building system, but I mean, as far as the mode itself, are you guys going to be giving us, maybe, I don't know, lighting? Because lighting's a big problem when you're in creative mode. A lot of times, you still have to deal with lighting. Some people build in space, and it's semi-light. Sometimes some people build on the planet.
Ground, sir.
There's a lot of issues around that as far as activating weights and volumes in creative that would help with testing and balancing. Do you guys plan on visiting any of that?
At the moment, creative mode is just a survival game with 2 planets in space, with hard-coded like God mode always on, things like that. There are definitely things we can change in that, and there are things on our list as well to change with it. It is a frequent request. We're hurrying to change the way that creative works for players to give them better experience in building.
Yeah, because I will say that, I feel that building is probably the strongest point this game has, and something that it has over pretty much every other game in the market is you have a robust survival game, but you also have the ability to completely build whatever you want and need to solve issues within the game. So, building being your biggest asset, I think. It would be, for the new players that come in, it would be really great if there was some kind of a specialized creative mode that maybe was, I don't know, like just maybe not a canvas white, but something to where you can have kind of a dynamic light, but not, not all of what's going on in a standard survival game. Because lighting's constantly an issue, when you're dealing with textures and you're dealing with the way they look and everything. It could be really hard to build and texture properly when you're dealing with that. Because you're only in one place when you're building, but when you're moving around, it looks different, and so it'd be nice to kind of have a balanced mode to where you can just kind of build. All right, so that was the kind of the pre-placed questions that you guys had within the Discord. I'm gonna look to the chat now. Is there any other questions that have come up? I did catch that weights and volumes question when I was glancing. Is there any other question that you guys have for the developers? Joda's saying is there any way to slow down the standard game time instead of the 15-minute cycles between day and night?
Slow down the game time. It's the first time I heard about it. I think it is possible to get it changed, but at the moment, I think the time works pretty much in line with what most games are having. If it gets too long, I don't think that will be a good thing either.
Welcome to XBC.
But if you are actually a single player, you can slow it down yourself. Not many know that. If you go to the console and you open the debug menu, then actually you can stop even the time. In multiplayer it doesn't work, but in single player you can do it yourself.
Okay. Let's see. Turrets on SVs. Is that ever going to be anything you guys are looking at?
Turrets and SVs. I've seen the discussion as well on the forum. Those are not planned at the moment. Same as just a design
Okay. Firebrand's been asking this all week. Are you guys planning on adding laser sentry guns?
Laser sentry guns. That will be the same with the weapon topic. We will definitely look at different type of weapon.
Okay. Drone range increase. Your personal drone. Do you guys plan on extending range for that? Or maybe an upgraded drone, or
the drone itself is on the future list as well to get him changed because he's not really doing what it should do.
Okay. Will 10.6
It wobbles too much.
Yeah.
It wobbles too much. You can actually lock it, then it doesn't wobble. It's the same as you can lock an HV from turning when you're drilling. You can do that with your personal drone as well.
And there was a rebalance of it recently that made it a lot better than it used to be. I think that happened in Alpha 10.
Yeah, we did some changes to the drone to make it a bit more stable because we know it is not easy to operate with the drone.
All right. Will 10.6 require a server wipe?
No, it doesn't require a wipe. The changes we made will work with existing saves.
Banj asks, when are they fixing logistics to work with placeables?
Those are actually requested to get them added as well to logistics. But there is no ETA on when we get back to that topic.
Junio is asking about getting joystick support.
Joystick support is not on our planned list at the moment. We completely reworked the Xbox controller, and that was our main goal. Small little secret, we will add someday, I'm not saying when, because it is not known when there is time for it, some basic controls for a joystick. But just basic controls. So it is not something that will be completely worked on and is supposed to work.
Very, very basic.
Say again, Texas?
It will be very, very basic and slipped in under the.
Maybe it will move forward, will move backward. You can go left and right with it. Probably your throttle button will work, but that's
Exactly.
what-
Yes, it will be so that you'll be able to use the throttle and do basic steering and to pull the trigger to fire your weapon. But that's going to be about it for the.
Okay, understood. Will we get a main menu browser for our blueprints?
As I said before, the whole factory is at the moment a placeholder and is planned to be reworked. And that also includes the blueprint library.
Oh, Disturb brought a very good question that I missed. The Scorpions, are we going to fix the hitbox on those, or?
Those are not fixed yet, but it is reported, and I have been checking them myself as well. Felt a bug report about it in our internal system to get them actually checked out what now is wrong with them. Because I noticed as well they have dead zones, parts that you can't hit them.
Yeah, like all of them, except for like the center of their eye.
Yeah, I've noticed it myself. So I did file that bug report about it, and it will definitely be checked. But yeah, as I said, what is with many things, at the moment
Go to
we're
the shooting.
so deep. Sorry.
I was just kidding. Go to the shooting range.
At the moment, we're just so busy with refactoring the playfield servers that you can run multiple playfields on one playfield server for whole Alpha 11, and that is asking a lot of time from us.
Okay. As far as repairing ships with the, you guys did a lot of good fixes with that. It was a big problem when it started, but now it works well. Do you plan on being able to repair without having to turn the power off so the plants don't die?
We actually disallowed the power for a reason. It was to kill an exploit. So turning the power back on will basically put the exploit back in game, and that is not something we like to. But yes, killing off your plants might be problematic.
Also, with the repair console itself, I mean, I see room for a lot of upgradability with that. Like maybe being able to upgrade a vessel. Let's say you have a vessel made out of steel blocks. You could use the repair console to then upgrade that to hardened steel or combat steel. Have you guys looked into any of that as far as being able to actually upgrade the vessels with the repair console?
We are thinking about a tier 3 repair block, basically, that can do that kind of stuff. But we also have some limitation that we still have to look at to get that element out first, and then expand this.
Yeah, because that would be awesome. Because it's not, you know, when you're not an experienced builder and you're grabbing something off the workshop or a prefab and you want to be able to upgrade that, you can upgrade the outer hull, but you can't necessarily upgrade the blocks inside or, you know, in between blocks. And it'd be really helpful if you could just overall do that without having to go into creative and do the console commands.
True.
Let's see what
But
else.
that is also something that the CPU is supposed to kill, that you have like 10 layers of armor around your ship. Because if you if you look to the hit points of the blocks, I think it was 5 layers of steel block will give the same effect as 1 layer of hardened.
All right. Will container arrays be extendable beyond 320K and 128 slots?
Sorry? Ask again?
You know how there's a max limit to 320K cargo container systems in CVs. Do you guys plan on extending that, or is that a hard max?
No, it is not hard coded. You actually can change it yourself with the custom config if you feel like. The limits that we picked, we feel that they are pretty balanced. But you can change them yourself with a custom config file that you can run in single player. You can run it in multiplayer, but on multiplayer it has to be done on the server side, so the server owner has to do it. But you can those parameters are changeable by players themselves.
Lagreen brings up another good point that has been asked. Auto sort button for cargo.
Auto short button. Yeah, Hummel just answered in chat as well. Auto short is definitely on our list to get it added to the game as well, that you can short your stuff around in the bar.
Okay. JTM project, an on and off switch for force field emitters, and I would also say for container extensions as well. Do you guys plan on being able to toggle the power on some of those hard-coded power consumption devices?
In the force fields, they used to be there. Honestly, I don't know why they got removed, but Hummel might know that answer. So ask him in chat, and he's around. He can answer. The container controllers and extenders, we know they eat a lot of power, but that is what we wanted. We feel like storing all that extra equipment should come at a cost, and that cost is extra power.
Okay. Well, it brings up I don't know exactly what he's asking, but I guess what he might be asking is a lot of times in multiplayer you'll have somebody that's in a CV, and then you might have other players that maybe want to sit in one of the docked SVs or HVs. Is that ever going to be possible?
Sorry? What you mean exactly?
So, when you dock an SV or an HV to a CV and someone's
Yeah.
piloting the CV, will it ever be possible to be able to sit in one of the docked vessels instead of having to sit in the passenger seat of the CV?
No, because that's the same thing. We disabled that because of an exploit.
Okay. Do you guys plan on adding a decoy block for multiplayer?
Decoy block. Decoys are, yeah, I think you can turn them in the whole weapon topic. That will definitely be looked at if that is possible.
Because there's a lot of controversy with multiplayer builds as a whole, as far as burying turrets as decoys, so that the auto turrets fix on them instead of the other guy's turrets. Which is really a workaround for not having a decoy block. But if you had decoy blocks, then you wouldn't need to bury turrets and stuff. You could use the decoy blocks to kind of like strategically trick the other guy's systems.
I get what you mean. It will definitely be looked at when the weapon will be a topic for the game.
Way behind in chat, guys, so forgive me. I was way on the top going through stuff here. Do you guys as far what do you guys see for the logistics as a whole, as far as cargo management? Is this still just a placeholder, or do you guys plan on giving, I guess, more complex cargo systems, or is it going to continue to kind of be moving things from one area to another without any kind of literal explanation as to why that's happening? You know what I mean? Like, instead of actually having to physically move stuff through a conveyor system or other things. Do you guys plan on building on that, or are you going to kind of stay a little bit in the magical realm as far as that goes? I don't mean that's a bad thing, because it's kind of a good thing too. It does kind of simplify things to an extent, but it's a delicate balance.
Well, when the whole weight system, how it works, got added, we had huge plans with it, what is all possible, and those things are still on the list with it. But basically, a whole conveyor system is automatic and automatization, and that is a whole different topic that we have to think and talk about.
Okay. What about countermeasures? Be kind of cool. piloting countermeasures as far as you know, your
Well, the countermeasures.
Hmm.
Yeah, put it in the weapon topic, then that will be brought to attention and talked about what can be done, what can be changed, what can be added.
Hummel's asking or answering a lot of good questions here with teleporters. Different concepts needed. They do not work anymore with random gen and very slight, maybe. Bombs. Semp wants bombs.
You think you could fly around the SV a little bit for the people that missed it?
Fly around. Yeah, sure, definitely the pilot mode.
He's like, no, I can't do that because the CPU is over limit by 100%.
I can with the one. Hold on, where'd it go? What did I do with the? Yeah. So again, guys that kind of jumped in late and everything. The CPU numbers are not you know, they're going to be reworked. So, you know, it's nothing to, you know, right now, currently, pretty much everything you're going to look at isn't going to be CPU compliant.
Yeah, with the CV to CV docking, I do love the idea of modular build.
Yeah, but it's the same story as with SV-HV docking. It's the collider system, and as I said earlier, of course it's on our list. We know that players want it, but the collider system is difficult to change. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of hours, and each time it's basically a never-ending story. And of course we keep working on it, and we're reaching a point that is possible as well.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm just saying, I love the idea of it.
We know it's a most wanted future as well, CV docking, especially to have a small miner and a transport CV. I would love it myself, for instance.
Do you guys ever plan on fixing the homing rockets to where they don't take almost a second to spawn into the game before they shoot off, so that you don't get a lot of the block clipping that makes them not register?
If we find a reliable reproduction case, then we can easily fix it, yeah. Problem with bugs is we need to be able to reproduce them, and with some bugs it is easy, with other bugs that is harder. And when it becomes harder, it's also problematic to fix it, because if we can't reproduce it, we can't debug it either. And with a game this large, if you need to dive in the code and start searching for it, yeah, that is basically undoable.
I also noticed earlier that the bases don't seem to be affected by CPU. Is this going to change, or?
What is going to change?
Bases and CPU.
The bases will have a CPU limit as well. As I said, it's currently 300k. And again, that limit is subject to change. It's not like it is all set in stone, the numbers. We're still talking about it. Hummel has been this morning pointing out new numbers that might work better than what is currently in the game. And like for a base, it's like the same cripple system works as well. And then think about constructors that run less efficient, generators that will output reduced power, turrets that will don't work as good as what they work normally, things like that. And then take the tier system in mind that I explained earlier, that is considered to be added, where you can upgrade your CPU points, basically.
Okay. I think that's the big thing we need to, and I think that was most of the reason why we're doing this today, is to expel any idea that, you know, these things aren't going to be worked on and fixed based on the feedback that we get in the experimental and even the stable. You know, this game is in development. It's very actively in development, and you know, all these things are going to be reworked based on feedback and everybody's overall experience with the gameplay.
When the experimental version is out, how more people are actually trying it out, how better it is for us, because the feedback, especially concerning the CPU, is for us very important to get it balanced out, that it will become a system what will work for everybody.
Now, with the docking the way it is now, do you guys ever plan on being able to not have to go into the HV to do the docking process? Like be able to kind of like magnetically clip to the HV and...
We have been talking about it, but there is some limitation we're running into at the moment.
Okay. Because especially, you know, this being a primarily single-player game, it's a process that would be good to kind of, you know, have a more of a seamless. But I mean, again, this is the very beginning of docking as far as small vessel to HV, and hopefully eventually CV to CV and some of the other stuff if there's positive feedback on it.
If we can iron out all the issues we're facing with also CV docking and all the way that you dock from an HV or from an SV to an HV, then definitely, of course, we take a look at those things.
So I think probably the biggest thing, especially, you know, I think CPU is obviously going to be the front runner as far as drastic changes, you know, with 10.6 as a whole, and with the workshop especially. It motivates me as far as a builder, as far as having to build new stuff. I think it's a lot of fun, but I think obviously a lot of people will feel, you know, a little disheartened, you know, that their builds don't work and this and that. So I would just, you know, I would just give it a little while. Let the dust settle. Let the changes get made and everything, and then I think, you know, it'll get to a place where you'll see that your builds probably just need to be tweaked a bit, unless they are just very extravagant, big, you know, purely RP builds. Whereas yes, you know, those probably won't work efficiently, or you know, maybe move now because of this, but. I think as a whole, you know, the developers have to worry about the performance of the game and how it's going to work, you know, especially in a multiplayer setting and even in single player. So this is...
But also for low-end computers. Not everybody has the money to buy a very expensive PC and things like that. So it's difficult to find a place or a way in the game that works for everybody, and that is what we're trying.
Right mouse button to open the submenu with available shape. Carrier may be limited in size and thus not able to carry specific ship. Yeah, but I mean, I think, you know, with all vessels going to be, you know, they're all going to be size appropriate now, more or less. So, you know, I don't see that as being an issue. You know, I mean, you are going to have to carry more vessels as a whole within the game now that there's more specialized, you know, with having to have more specialized builds and stuff. But I think as a whole, it'll be pretty balanced. Now, as far as the deco blocks, you know, we've all kind of noticed a pattern as far as some of the deco blocks that have been long-standing and just, you know, purely for cosmetics, and then those being enabled into actual functional blocks. You know, if you look at a lot of the deco blocks, are any of those going to be implemented as an actual feature in the game?
Well, we had plans for that, yeah, to make them active and actually do something with it. The same as with the NPCs, to actually make them really part of the game, that they get a job.
Scarlet's asking, when can we get our hands on 10.6 so that we could start building?
Now, the plan is that it goes Monday during the day to experiment. And that is then the first experimental version.
So 2 days from now, guys, you're potentially going to have the first experimental, which will allow you to effectively test out your builds and everything to see if they're going to work within the new system.
Oh yeah, what time zone do y'all refer to when y'all are giving out time?
When we're giving times, we refer to CET, so GMT plus 1, I think. German time, to say it like that. As most know, most of the developers are coming from Germany, so it's easier to just follow that time.
All right, do we have any more questions from anybody? I think we pretty much covered anything. I can't even think of. I'm probably going to think of it later on, but I can't think of anything else at the moment. I guess Alpha 11. What are you guys looking at? You know, future patches here. Alpha 11 is going to be.
Well, I'm from Finland, Annie, so I know your feeling.
Yeah, Bullet. We did actually ask that, the angled hangar doors.
And what does Voxer mean about resized thrusters for SVs?
I think he means are they? I kind of asked that earlier as far as the are the thrusters going to get revisited on SVs, because they're not. It doesn't make sense to use anything above medium right now based on the performance versus fuel efficiency and size. Are they going to adopt the HV and CV thruster groups?
The whole fuel topic is also a whole topic that needs to be. The whole energy is basically a topic that needs to be reworked, because at the moment, energy just knows 2 states. Your generator. And that is if you are in a vessel and you put your generator on, it's or 0 or just 100%. There is nothing between it. So the whole energy, the whole generator, the whole output is going to be a topic as well that completely gets reworked. And then also in energy, you can start to think about wind energy and batteries and stuff like that.
Yeah, Spanish is screaming about CV detectors. I think everybody's
will the J Randall radar dish see any functionality?
The radar dish might get its functionality when radar gets added, and a CV detector detecting in space doesn't work good, because on a planet you just have a flat planet and you drive on it, and the location is easily shown. It's completely different when you're in space. And with the whole CV of SV HV docking, you can also leave your CV in space. It's also something a lot of people are actually wanting, because in a certain way, a big CV, it doesn't really belong on a planet. It belongs to stay in space.
Yeah, that would be awesome if you know, the thrusters and generator sound is one thing, but those shutter doors, my God, is there any way to turn those down? Because
At the moment, not, but the sound system gets its rework.
okay, because wow, that is, yeah. Even when I hear one of those in real life, I cringe. I go, oh, oh my God, it's too much.
At the moment, most of those things come down to priorities, and we prioritize the game futures higher at the moment than all those side things.
I'll tell you what, one thing I really like seeing is the horror aspect they get from the horrors and the scorpions. When you watching a streamer rating these little POIs and watching their reaction, that's the best. Is there any plan to expand upon that horror scene?
I think the horrors are not the final asset yet, but yeah, we can definitely expand on that. Like
More scary creatures.
More scary creatures. Yeah, we're as I said, we're developing the lore, and as Hermal progresses in the lore and how the story goes, the things get added. So more scary creatures. Yeah, we can certainly consider that.
All right, so I guess pretty much I would say more or less the yeah. Well, we did talk about crouch as well.
One last
Crouch is
question.
happening.
Crouch
Because,
down, that will happen, but writing, it requires us to write whole new character animations, and that is not an easy task to do. And
so
then
as Scarly,
Hmm?
as Scarly was saying, it would be good. There's people with like legitimate spider phobia, arachnophobia, and he's wondering if there's a way that you guys could put like an option in there to change the spiders to something else.
I don't think we really can add such an option, but you can disable the spiders yourself and replace them by just digging into the files, actually.
Yeah, I mean a lot of the game is actually customizable, but you would have to have some
Yes.
knowledge with the files. Do you guys ever plan on maybe streamlining that a little more, giving it an interface to be able to actually adjust a lot of these things?
There are some players like GMC Burn who wrote a whole playfield design, and then we have Yaska who built the admin helper. Then we have Aztec who built his own version of the admin helper and a bunch of mods. But if we ourselves were really develop tools for that, I don't know, because it is also a way those players who made those tools, they spent a lot of time, a lot of work on it, and if we start to add it, we don't really want to take the toy away, to say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
To be the one who, because if we write something, players will use our tool, of course, and it's not a nice thing to those people who spent a lot of time on it, who love to build the tool, like GMC Burns spent a lot of time on the playfield designer, and me and Rexus both worked very closely with him to get everything added, to get everything, the bugs out of it. And it would be a bit harsh if we would say, hey, we write our own tool and too bad for you.
Okay.
So, but a lot is customizable with the tools. And as I know from the playfield designer, actually he's working on a second version secretly, where you also can edit the config file and all that kind of stuff with it. So it's just a matter of time when he can finish the tool, and more will be possible with an editor.
Okay.
And how more the game runs in a finished state, how lesser a tool needs updating, and at some point the tool is just, it doesn't need any updating more, for instance.
All right, Big Feet here is asking for perpetual turf war a plan for the future, considering factions can engage AI wise and player wise.
Faction territory that you can expand it and fight over it is definitely.
You broke up. Is definitely
Blend.
okay. Okay. The chat's moving quick, guys. You gotta forgive me. I got this little screen where I'm trying to catch all this stuff. I hope that answered your question there, Big Thing. Yeah. So, any more thoughts, Taylor?
Yeah, I just hope that players will Monday turn up the experimental version and please test the new system out, especially CPU, the flight controller, and give us the feedback, even if it is something you completely hate. Give us that feedback, because we have in the evening a meeting about it, and we will discuss the first topics of feedback. So to get it changed already. So keep it coming. Keep the feedback coming. That is my biggest thing for the public.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely recently you guys have been a lot more active, community wise, as far as I mean, Eleon's always been watching for feedback and always taking feedback into account, but I think that the process is getting better, especially with Discord. A lot of the time, forums to me are a thing of the past. I love forums, but they're definitely a thing of the past. They're not very easy to use. Just to get a picture into a comment is such a pain, and Discord just makes it a lot easier. It makes it you have a thought, you have a bug, you have an issue, you could jump into Discord, you could quickly throw in a screenshot, you can conversate about it, you can get many people to look at it really quickly. So I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing from Eleon as a whole, as far as you, Taelyn, engaging with the community on a literal level, and actually answering a lot of questions. I mean, you do it all day. You answer questions in general chat on the official Empyrion servers, as well as a lot of community services, especially with mine. And I know, you look into Spanges and a lot of other people. So I definitely appreciate that. I think it's really important, and I think it allows us to all feel like we have input into the game that we're playing and helping you test. So
Thank you. But me and Hummel are around on the Discord. We're all around on the forum. Texas is also on the Discord, but he's usually just busy, and he minds then his own thing, and he is not that experienced with the playing the game himself. But Hummel does, I do, and if people have questions, they can always come to us, and we're more than happy to help players around. Even if you don't know how the config file works, give me a poke. More than happy to help people out with anything.
all right, so I would be remiss if I didn't use this opportunity to answer a very important question of mine.
I'm even around in most Discords, so people always have a way of finding.
Right. So, like, this is a clone chamber, right? And like, this is a medical station. Is there a way to hard code it so you can't have both on a vessel?
Can't have both on a vessel.
Because or can you make it so this can upgrade to this with the multi-tool or something? Because this is ridiculous right here. We need to fix this. This is a big problem in the game.
I actually think they have bought a thing in the game. For a long time, it used to be that the med chamber was for if you died on the playfield, you could tow for it. And I think that for a long time it was this way, that the clone chamber was when you were on a different playfield that you could go back. Actually, I don't know if that is still the case.
All right, fair enough. So the HV though, the HV med station says in the description that it's also a spawn point, but this has never been something that I can spawn to. Is that going to be fixed at any point?
I don't know that we think that it is bugged actually, so that's the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah,
I'll test it out, and indeed, if it doesn't work, I will.
So it says restores health and sets spawn point, but I've never found that it sets the spawn point. You've always needed to have the clone chamber.
Okay, I'll test it out and get it fixed if it is indeed bugged. Because if it says it, I know it says it, but then it should also.
Okay, cool. So right on, man. So this is helpful. So motorbikes are going away. Clone chamber's getting fixed. I'm happy. I don't know about you guys. Freaking
No,
awesome.
the motorbike is not going away. It probably gets changed.
Damn it. Arrgh. No motorbike.
I heard it was just being changed to a hover bike.
Yeah, well.
Ooh.
Oh, we experienced for quite a bit in the close access with the Hoover bike, and it was a nice start. Just had some issues, and till then we didn't really fix those issues yet, but it worked perfectly. Hoover bike.
Or you could just build a hover bike. It'd be good.
You can basically build a cheap HV in the start, yeah, and kept the same mechanic with it, so.
Yeah. I mean, my only thing is, you build the hover bike, or not the hover bike, but the regular bike, whatever kind of bike. You build this really simple little, asset, and it basically takes you out of the game. I mean, it's, if you have a motorbike to run away from anything, it kind of doesn't force you to have to negotiate that issue in the game, right? So all of a sudden, you're just able to run away from everything. It takes you out of the immersion of that early game kind of gameplay. You know what I mean? That's my only thing with it. Now if you had to build something to get away, then yeah, you're building something. You're doing something actively in the game to I mean, it's just more satisfying to me than just building this little pre-made bike. That's all. That's my whole issue. I'm gonna leave it at that.
You always hated it.
Yeah, it's like Osiris New Dawn or something. It's not of this game.
He's not the only one.
not of this
There are
game.
others of us.
Yeah. All right, guys.
The biggest thing I've ever heard was the turning radius.
Yeah, it's as Hummel said, it's just a fall back. Take it like you're at the POI, your vessel gets crippled, and your thrusters get destroyed or whatever, your cockpit gets destroyed, and you can't go away anymore, and then you just have a quick way on returning. That's how you have to see it. It was never meant as transportation. You can use it, but it's not meant for that.
Replace the bike with a Segway. God, no. All right, guys. I mean, you have anything else, Taelyn, Texas?
No, I said my piece, so.
I hope this was informative to everybody. I hope you guys. I definitely appreciate you coming on, especially on my platform, and giving us firsthand the answers to the million questions that we would have had on Monday had you released the patch and freaked out in Discord and all in the forum. I mean, I'm sure people will still freak out, but at least there'll be something to reference, and we will have gotten it straight from the developers as to why it's this way and what the plans are to not only fix it, but to progress and balance it in the future. Because I think the biggest thing we need to stress is that this is an alpha game, and we are all alpha testers playing this game. And I think because we've been playing it for so many years, we tend to forget that. The Eleon team has been developing this game for years, and constantly, there's been no real space and time that, there hasn't been a lot of updates and patches and stuff. So I'm really happy to give all the feedback that I can give based on, how I give feedback. And I know that tons of people spend a lot of time giving you guys feedback, and I feel like you guys do pay attention to it and you implement a lot of it. So I think we all just need to really understand that it does take a lot of time, and there's only so many developers. This isn't a huge team. It started off really small, and I think it's now to 11 or something. It's not a whole lot of people, and they're all real people too that they have lives and stuff, and I definitely appreciate all the work you guys put into this game because we all love it. We all spent a lot of time in it, and I'm thrilled that these changes are coming and that more beyond that are being looked at. I mean, pretty much everything we asked, it's on the menu, guys. It's something that's being looked at and hopefully can be implemented in time. So patience, communication. Ask questions. Don't get disheartened by the workshop or your building, and just stay tuned for more. Thanks to yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
As one of the developers once taught to me, in software developing, basically anything is possible.
Definitely, and it's your guys' willingness to look at all these things is what's really appreciated. Because that's another thing to point out. You guys don't have a hard roadmap. You guys aren't limiting yourself to a roadmap, and I think that's an important thing to look at. You guys are willing to bend in a lot of areas based on what's possible, and I think that's the biggest thing to point out here. So yeah, thanks again to Taelyn, to Texas, Jet Set Dragon, Bone Dog, everybody for being in here and participating. Thanks to everybody in the chat, everybody watching. I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely spread the word, guys. Let's get more people in Empyrion. The more people that are playing the game, the more chance the developers have to develop the game. At the end of the day, it is a business, and we need to get as many people into this community and into this game as possible for the development to continue and for a lot of these changes and things to happen. So on Reddit, on anywhere, you guys hype up the game, post a review in Steam, get the word out, and let's get more people in here. Shout out to all the content creators, everybody that does Let's Plays, everybody that does videos in the game, everybody that puts out content. You guys are very important too. So definitely props to everybody that does that. Yeah, freaking awesome, guys. Thanks to everybody joining us today. And yeah, let's do this again, Taylor. I think this was good.
Sure,
Man.
definitely.
So until next time, guys, I will catch you guys later. Take care, everybody. Oh, neat.